Hey everyone, how y'all doing? All right, Chapter 9 Austin Behind Bars. Harry Smith and John Austin led a contingent of Texans who have gone to Brazos to obtain a cannon. Dario di Yotita, something like I have no idea, commander of a Mexican fort of Valdesco, was not willing to part it. The battle between the Texans and as many as 150 of them and the Mexicans, who numbered somewhere between 100 to 200, did not go well for the latter, who were forced to surrender when their ammunition gave out. Most sources estimated that there were 7 Texans killed and 14 wounded, with the 3 of the 14 later dying from their wounds. The Mexican had 5 killed and 16 wounded. The formal surrender took place in the camp at a month of Brazos on June 29th. Was allowed to return to Mexico on the ship colonists furnished. Had the dispute over a cannon been an isolated incident, the surrender could have marked the end of the conflict, and there did not yet appear to be a strong desire for independence from Mexico. A more real and present danger that could not be ignored were raided by the various tribes, most prominently of the remaining Indians who settled there, assisting and retaliating for their require the ranger like volunteers, as Austin had once written. Such men were needed for the defiance of your fireside, from your wives and children, your friends and yourself, your properties, and, of course, Texas. Anglo Texans held Indians in even greater contempt than Mexicans. Explaining Robert Altley, the Lone Star Justice, Anglo regard any Indians within the line of settlement as bent on mischief and a fair target for their rifles. And no matter how vigorous their protest of peace and friendship, tribal leaders could not restrain their young men from occasionally plundering into their settlement. Thrust and counter thrust fed on themselves and for whites and Indians alike made the frontier a dangerous place. However, the scaling between the colonists and the Mexican government soon refused to take a back seat. Texans leader decided to follow the Valquez incident to host a sort of convention in San Felipe de Austin to discuss recent events. Almost 60 delegates representing 16 colonies attended. A semester outcome of the convention to the Mexican authorities was the creation of a new militia. It is consists of 2 battalions of 6 companies each. The militia was the stronger preparation for the eventual conflict with the various Indian tribes, but more than a few Mexican officials said it as another step towards Texas independence. The colonists planning to take advantage of the ongoing unstable in Mexico City. From March 1829, when Victoria's term as president peacefully ended, to May 1833, when the invention of Santa Anna was finally realized, Mexico tried to fraction under 7 different heads of state. Goro Jose Maria, who last all 6 days. Pedro Velez, 8 days. Anastasio Bustamante, Molcho Maniz, Manuel Gazila, and Valentine Gazila. For us, for the lawmakers and clergy, and just attending all the swearing-in ceremonies must have been exhausting. It's made sense that the growing number of annual wonders, if that the best Mexican can do, why not try governing ourselves? Though he personally preferred the Texans remaining part of Mexico, Stephen Austin agreed to take to Mexico City a constitution the colonists and convention had created. Since Austin had the longest relationship with the Mexican government, it made sense to send him instead of strangers. But this did not make sense to Santa Anna. None of it did. This looked to the president like an interaction preserving Austin as the leader of it. Santa Anna had him tossed in prison. Being sent to jail was certainly not expected, and many have hardened Austin's heart against the honest host country. At least he was not completely alone in the prison, as luck would have it. The well-traveled father Maldon was living in Mexico City when Austin was in prison there. For 3 months incarceration, Austin was allowed only one visitor, and it was a Catholic clergyman who helped preserve the Texan sanity. Maldon also kept petitioning for Austin's release, and finally occurred in the summer of 1835 when there was general amnesty. After 28 months of being away, Austin did not return to Texas full of zeal for independence. He had instead been encouraged by Santa Anna presidency, first, that it had last more than a few months, and second, that he had grant the Texans more rights, including religious freedom and the ability to use English for official documents. If anything, Austin hoped for the territory content to remain the way it was and to focus on expansion, settlement, and prosperity, not friction. Any with a taste for friction could sign up for a document ranger unit to continue the fight with the Indians. But the scenario changed rapidly after the incident at Gonzales in October 1835. Many historians viewed it as the battle that began the Texas Revolution, and at this time, Rangers will be involved. Come to our aid. Chapter 10. Once again, the dispute was over a cannon Gonzales City citizen had obtained 4 years earlier from the Mexican authorities to help protect them from the frequent Comanche raids. But in September 1835, the annual independent in the air, Colonel Dominic, having failed upward to become the commander of all Mexican troops in Texas, felt unwise to leave such weapon in Gonzales and request it returned. When the initial request was refused, the Mexicans sent 100 dragoons to receive this weapon. The soldier near Gonzales on the 29th but the colonists used a variety of excuses to keep them from the town while secretly sending messengers to request assistance from the nearby community. Within 2 days, 140 Texans gathered, and Gonzalez determined not to give up the cannon. On October 1st, they voted to instigate a fight. The next day was contingent of Texans' approach to their camp. Mexican soldiers opened fire. After several hours of firing back and forth, the Mexican soldiers withdrew. Although the skirmish had little military significance, it was evidence of widening gap between the colonists and the Mexican government. News of the confronting spread even in the United States when it was referred to the Lexington of Texas. Even so, the both sides might have simply moved on, but then Martin Perfecto de Costa set foot in San Antone in addition of being a Mexican general. He was the brother-in-law of the president at Santa Anna. He had arrived in Texas by sea at the port of Capilano on September 20th with 500 soldiers. On October 1st, he proceeded to the town of Goliad, where he ordered the rest of the rebel leaders and garrison his men inside the near Presidio. Even before his arrival, a group of Texans had spotted the kidnapped cause, but the rebelling community rejected the idea. The Texans saw the presence of this force and as further provocation and insult. Presidio on October 10th, only to learn the cast had already left San Antonio. Cast's men were besieged by the Texas Army under the leadership of now galvanized Stephen Austin. After 56 days siege at San Antonio and the Alamo Mission, on December 9th, Cass surrendered to the town of Texas. He and his men were allowed to retreat across the Rio Grande with their muskets as well as one 4-pound cannon. The Mexican loses during the siege were about 150 troops on his way south. An ambush brother-in-law met up Santa Anna and his northbound forces. The president was not in doubt, regretting any counties he had previously bestowed on Texas as his army marched to put down the rebellion. It was thanks to the possibility of the army conflict with Mexico that the Rangers became official position. At the convention Independent Mind, Texas, in the mid-October, the Permanent Council was elected to act as de facto government of the territory. In turn, called upon 3 colonists, Silas Parker, Garrison Greenwood, and D.B. Fryer, to create companies of men whose business shall be ranged and guard the frontier. Now, Rangers, every man in company, in return for $1.25 a day of wages, would supply his own gun, ammo, and horses and other necessary to be out on patrol. Weeks of recruiting and organizing ensued. Then on November 28, 1835, the Permanent Council elected official of Ranger Company, though not to the same 3 men who had formed those companies. Robert Williamson was appointed to the major, who would be in charge of the entire force of Rangers, and designated captain of each company John Templeton, Isaac Burton, and William Arlington. In this case, Templeton had hope for swift and serious action against Indians to average the killing of his father. well, I'm going to stop there, and we'll read more maybe later on. Hey, thanks for all coming. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.